Picture this, you're at an event, a social gathering. It might be a family party or a work event. You've got a drink in your hand and you're stood in the corner watching everyone else laugh and connect. Your palms are sweaty. You're trembling. Your mind is racing. You're rehearsing opening minds in your head, but they all sound terrible, cheesy. Does that sound familiar? I'm Mark, and until a few years ago, I was that person, trembling in that corner, blushing, going bright red like a beetroot. I couldn't attend work parties or other social gatherings. I'd replay conversations in my head for days and days, going over all the things I thought I said wrong. But what if I told you that discovering the hidden language patterns used by hypnotists, master persuaders, and charismatic leaders transformed not just my social anxiety, but my entire relationship with human connection? This is the story of how I accidentally stumbled upon hypnotic language, the subtle art of influence that happens in everyday conversations. Learning these patterns didn't just cure my social anxiety, it made me excited to talk to people for the first time in my life. It got to the point where I was totally isolated. I was working online because I couldn't handle the office environment and being around others. My relationships were crumbling. I was watching life happen through a screen rather than partaking in it. But that isolation led me to discover something that most people never learn. Every conversation is actually a form of light hypnosis. And once you learn the patterns, everything changes. My rock bottom moment came during a work video call. Even through a screen, I was so anxious about speaking up that when it came my turn to speak, when I was asked for my input, I pretended my internet connection was dodgy and finished the call. After that event, that night, I was mindlessly scrolling through YouTube, avoiding real human contact as usual, when I stumbled across a video about conversational hypnosis. The title was How to Plant Ideas in People's Minds Without Them Knowing, or something like that, some kind of clickbaity title that I thought sounded interesting. Something about that title made me click. Maybe it was my desperation, but within 5 minutes, my entire worldview had been shattered. The presenter was explaining how certain word patterns could bypass people's conscious resistance. He demonstrated phrases like, "You might find yourself," and "I wonder if," how these word patterns could make people more receptive to my ideas. I realized I'd been accidentally using these word patterns my whole life in conversations where I felt comfortable. I'd use them when talking to my mum, chatting with online friends, or explaining things I was passionate about. The difference was I was now seeing the code behind the magic. I became obsessed. I started studying everything I could find about hypnotic language and NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. But here's what blew my mind. These weren't manipulation techniques. These were natural patterns of influential communication that some people just know instinctively. I discovered the 3 hidden languages that operate beneath every conversation. The first hidden language is the language of permission. Instead of making direct statements that trigger resistance, influential people use permissive language. They say things like, "You might notice," "I wonder if." These patterns bypass the critical mind and make people more open to new ideas. Number 2 is the language of experience. Master communicators don't just share information. They don't just bullet point the facts. They create experiences through their words. They use sensory language, storytelling, and emotional bridges that make people feel understood at a deep level. Number 3 is the language of connection. The most charismatic people mirror speech patterns. They use inclusive language and they create what some people call artificial intimacy through linguistic techniques. The revelation hit me like lightning. My social anxiety wasn't just about the fear of judgment. It was about not knowing the rules of the game that everyone else seemed to understand intuitively. Once I started learning these patterns, something incredible happened. I actually wanted to try them out. For the first time in years, I was excited about talking to people. I was no longer terrified about meeting new people. Armed with this new knowledge, I began what I call my hypnotic language experiment. But instead of starting with high pressure situations, I started testing these language patterns in the safest of environments. I began testing these patterns on cashiers, servers, baristas, delivery drivers, people who were paid to be nice to me. I test simple patterns like, "You know that feeling when," "Have you ever noticed?" And I'd watch how these people responded to me. I noticed their responses would change when I used these hypnotic language patterns. The results were almost immediate. People became more engaged, more animated, more connected. I started analysing the conversations I admired, watching movies, online interviews. I was looking for those hypnotic language patterns. I was watching how those people connected with each other. I saw them everywhere once I knew what to look for. There's presuppositions, statements that assume certain things are true, embedded commands, suggestions hidden in ordinary sentences, temporal shifts, moving people through time to create emotional states, sensory stacking, layering, visual, auditory, kinesthetic sensations, sensations through language. Each pattern became a tool I could use instead of hoping I'd stumble into confidence. And I became able to use these patterns on myself to change my own self-talk. 3 months into studying these patterns, I was at a work gathering, the kind that used to cause me severe anxiety. But this time I had my secret weapon, hypnotic language. I approached the group discussing a new topic that I knew nothing about. In the past, I would have pretended to know what they were talking about. I would have pretended to know everything. I thought that admitting you didn't know something was a failure that made you look stupid. Instead, I said, "I'm curious about something." You know, that feeling when you're working on a project and you feel it could really make a difference. I wonder what that's like for this project. Within minutes, they were eagerly explaining everything, asking for my thoughts and inviting me to join their team. One person said, "Mark, you ask the most insightful questions. You really know how to make people think." That's when I realized these patterns weren't making me manipulative. They were making me genuinely curious about people for the first time in my life. And they were shifting my focus from internal, focusing on my negative thoughts and my negative feelings, to external, focusing on other people and making them feel good. As I got better with hypnotic language, everything transformed. My dating life exploded. Not because I was being manipulative, but because I could create genuine connection and intrigue. My career took off because I could create connections and influence decisions. But the biggest change, I actually enjoyed talking to people. I no longer dreaded it. I no longer felt that anxiety about meeting new people, having conversations. Each conversation became an opportunity to practice what I was learning and connect with new people. I was so excited about what I'd learned, I eventually decided to become a hypnotherapist and help people through the power of hypnotherapy and these very powerful language patterns. I've written a book and created a course called Hypnotic Conversations, The Art of Everyday Influence. Every conversation you've ever had has involved hypnotic language. You just didn't know it. If I say, don't think of a pink elephant, what happens? You immediately bring up an image of a pink elephant. You have to do that so you can know what I'm telling you not to think about. That's hypnotic language in action. When a friend says, you know how frustrating it is when so-and-so happens, they're using presuppositions to create a shared experience. When someone tells a story that makes you feel emotions, they're using the same techniques that professional hypnotists use to create positive change in their clients. The difference between anxious people and confident people, it's not personality, it's about knowing that you have the skills and the knowledge and the ability to deal with whatever comes your way. And learning hypnotic language patterns is going to give you those skills and techniques that you can use. Confident people unconsciously use influence patterns. Anxious people unconsciously use patterns that work against them. They might say things like, I'm not good at this, or this is going to sound stupid. But once you understand the patterns, you can decide which ones to use consciously rather than hoping for the best. So check the description below, find the link to my book, Hypnotic Conversations, The Art of Everyday Influence, and also my course. If you've liked this video, found it useful, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. If you know someone that could benefit from watching this video, share it with them. Thank you for your time.